Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And a wonderful morning to you. This is Newsline, live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. And this morning we have got a couple of guests, but before that I'd like to draw your attention to one of those sometimes outstanding speeches that come out of that place known as the Parliament. And yesterday was one of those exceptional ones. Let's take a listen.
There have been 3 elections in recent times. In none of these elections has President Rajapaksa been able to obtain more than 50%. So there is nothing to get excited about. But I was quite alarmed when quite early in the campaign, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, he said that sometimes the election could result in Tamil Elam blooming after the local authority elections if the people are not careful. My party talked of a political solution within the framework of an undivided single country. We only talked of a solution that is acceptable to our people. That was the propaganda we carried out in all our areas. And when we did that, how dare President Rajapaksa say that Elam could bloom after the election? But I want everybody in this country to know that it was malicious, vicious, false propaganda on the part of President Mahinda Rajapaksa and the Podujana party. And if you persist in this agenda, I want to tell you, Elam will bloom, not on account of us, on account of your lotus bud.
Malicious, vicious propaganda. Mr. Sambandan describing the former president's statement about something non-existent. To discuss this and a little bit more, we've got here Mr. Mahanamahewa and Mr. Tennakoon. Gentlemen, very good morning.
Very good morning.
Now then, Mr. Rusripala, I'll start with you, shall I? All we've seen for the past several days are people scurrying here and scurrying there. In my mind, it's a bit of a circus. And the big top is, unfortunately, this thing called the Parliament. Everybody seems to be trying to hang on to their position, because by the use of this word national government, that's the only way the 19th Amendment can sort of give way to a bigger size jumbo cabinet. Otherwise, it's only 30. And right from the beginning, they've used this and it's a very flimsy word, this national government. It's between more than one party. So it could be one party plus one. That's also national government. Right. So what's going on? In the meantime, we've all seemed to have forgotten that there is various things that happened before 2015 that the people were unhappy about, and now they seem to be getting the life again, and have the people forgotten why these people were sent out of office in the first place?
Yes. For us, this is a very, very strange situation that we are faced in. They call it a crisis, but I don't see any crisis in it. It is a created situation for people, as you very rightly said, for their survival. Now, what is this dilemma about? It is nothing about the national government or the number of ministers in the cabinet. It devolves on one particular thing. The Prime Minister, after the last election results, if he decided to bow down to the opinion and accept the situation that there should be a change in his own party being the major party that controlled the government hitherto, all this calamity or this confusion wouldn't have arisen. This is a decision of one person to decide, you see, how I should behave or what I should do at a time like this. The things would have continued.
Do you, Mr. Pratibha, detect a sense of morality or a lack of morality?
I don't think Prime Minister should resign.
Right.
Because the whole responsibility has to be taken by President of Sri Lanka as well as Prime Minister.
Yes, but now then, this brings me to my next question, Mr. Rusripala. For the President to act, these so-called experts have drawn up this constitution, and it's replete with several grey areas.
Yeah.
After all, the Constitution should be very clear, black and white, no grey areas. And what is this business that they are arguing about? Are you telling me that not only are the people unable to exercise their franchise for a minimum of 4.5 years, but now the president can't change the prime minister and his cabinet? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't say that for us. The president can very clearly and very concertedly, he can take a decision now to remove the prime minister.
Yeah.
Because there is enough sufficient provision in the constitution to do so.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, there are confusions in it which have to be argued out, which is correct and which is not correct.
Right. And there's an anomaly between the Sinhalese version
Definitely.
and the English version.
Yeah, 48.1 is
Yeah.
the section of the constitution. I think my friend Pratibha will be able to explain this very clearly because being a lawyer.
Yeah.
Now 48.1 is the one that deals with the dissolution of the dissolution of the cabinet of ministers.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't say that the president can dissolve the cabinet.
Right.
It refers to a situation where the cabinet stands dissolved due to certain other things happening.
Yeah.
One such thing is the prime minister ceasing to hold office.
Yeah.
Now there are circumstances explained under that. Under what circumstances does the prime minister cease to hold office?
Yeah.
One is resignation.
Yeah.
Right? One is he ceases to be an MP of the parliament.
Yeah.
You know now and death.
So we have death, resignation, or otherwise. What is this otherwise?
This is the thing. In the Sinhala version, strangely for us, it refers to one other factor other than these three. That is, removal of the prime minister by the president. Now, nobody seems to be giving attention to this factor. They are asking whether there is a clause in this constitution empowering the president to remove the prime minister. I think this section very clearly says, remove the prime minister. That right is there.
But there is an anomaly between, because in the English it doesn't say the remover, but that word is there. In
There is another anomaly. The constitution says, in the event of a interpretation requirement, you have to refer between the Sinhala and the Tamil. It never refers to the English.
Yes.
It says Sinhala. So the Sinhala version remains.
Yeah.
So if the Sinhala one is to prevail, it should prevail even upon the English one. So if that is the case, if somebody is looking for a provision whether the president has a right to remove the prime minister, here is the provision.
Right. So, but that's probably why, because of this confusion, that we are now told that the president has sent the matter off to the Supreme Court for their guidance. So we hope that that will happen. But in the meantime, if you remember, Mr. Pratibha and Mr. Rusipala, when this campaign in 2014, towards the end of 2014, when the presidential campaign was on, much was made of this so-called loss of our international image, that a growing authoritarianism, that was what Navi Pillay described Sri Lanka as, and that the United Nations was concerned about all these matters. And we must also remember that claims made soon after that election that there was a foreign hand in all this thing. Now, what is this current affair? Not only this current affair, but a series of departures from process, from established procedure, like the central bank bond matter, like the central highway matter, like the purchase of coal, like the granting of lands to some non-existent Volkswagen, right? Then something about a tire factory. These people doing business with the very people that they said was part of the front used by the previous administration. So all these things are happening today again. So where is the change, Mr. Pratibha?
Now the issue, I can clearly remember in 2014 Geneva what happened.
Yes.
The West was campaigning for a regime change.
Yeah.
Whatever we say, Mahinda not listening.
Yeah.
So therefore, we have to change the regime.
Yeah.
We don't mind who come to power, but they made certain puppets to come to power, as well as there is a Geneva resolution. And March 17, the Human Rights Council boss is going to make a special statement against Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
I am concerned in these human rights issues.
Yeah.
Now, as the National Human Rights Action Plan, all these leaders were in political stage. This is a mini election. This is not at least a provincial council. These are all local government elections.
Yeah.
They are not caring about this resolution. So that's why this Priyanka's came in Brigadier's case. But remember, in March, we have to face a lot of repercussions because we have not done anything.
Yeah.
And as you said, continuously happening. One of the main minister in the government said, Udayanga Veeratunga arrested and will bring to Sri Lanka before the election day. What happened? 7 people went. Give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
7 people went. They came with empty hand. They don't know the law. They don't know what is extradition. And also top senior officers went. They came with empty hand. The issue is this. They put all this into a political slogan. Other than that, where is Arjuna Mahendran? Has he been arrested? What is happening into this country? So the chief man who is involved in this now escaping. But remember, there are certain laws. But the person who appointed him to the post is also responsible.
Well, the buck stops there. Yes, okay. Now Mr. Sripala, what is happening? The people are being taken for a ride, for a joke. There are people in parts of this country who have got no water. I caught a clip yesterday on our network of this elderly lady, this grandmother, great-grandmother probably.
Yeah.
She was saying that she has to try and get it by digging a hole in the ground. And she said, you can't even get 2 basins of water. For heaven's sake, these people are talking about megapolis and billions and sending rockets up in the air and all sorts of things. And they can't get the basics right. What's happening? They're arguing about some position and hanging on to power.
Yeah.
Going up and down Paget Road. I'm sick to death of watching these images of these people going up and down, going up and down. Talk, talk, talk. Where's the delivery?
Whereas, coming to your issue, the social issues concerning the country, the international image becomes extremely important in all these matters because our country cannot do anything on our own by ourselves. We need the support of the international community. Now,
so where are they when all these robberies
when
are taking
things
place?
are happening? Robberies they can't stop. Robberies we'll have to punish the people. Robbers will be there. That is not the situation. The situation is, we, the politicians and the politics of this country, should be taking a direction where everybody will respect the democratic functioning of this country. Now take instances where 1953, Honorable Dudley Senanayake resigned as the Prime Minister. Why? For any folly that he did? Rice ration issue. He could have solved it very easily by changing that thing that he introduced. But instead, he chose to resign. Felix Das Bandaranaike in the 60s, when the rice issue came in the parliament, he presented it in the budget. He was the Minister of Finance. It was not voted against. It was only discussed by his own people saying against it. He resigned his post. Gamini Jayasuriya resigned and went. So that is a signal for the world, to the international community, that we are upholding, we are a community, country upholding democracy.
Now, back to you on this issue of
Yes.
Arjuna Mahendran, because you brought it up. Now then, do you know, somebody, I can't remember who, I think maybe Mahanamahewa, went to the Bribery Commission,
Yes.
complained about this rogue governor, right? This rogue governor. And I'm saying that because that's the perception. It has to be tested in court, all right? But anyway, we have 10,000 plus pages about this scam. My question is, they went to the Bribery Commission. There was a time when his passport had been impounded. He was precluded from leaving. Then, somehow or other, he got permission to travel. So they started this process, like this entire bond scam, premeditated. this escape from this country was also premeditated, because slowly they got used to the idea that Mahendran was going abroad and coming back, going abroad and coming back. We had our Prime Minister, our dear Prime Minister, say, I think it was in Parliament, "Panala giye naha, udayanga wage." He has gone for a wedding, he will be back. So this is one big wedding he's gone to this time, if he has gone for a wedding. I'll take your response, because unfortunately we've got to take a break. But when I come back, I'll get your response about that impounded passport. Don't go away. After all, this is Newsline. We'll be back after the short break.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And welcome back to Newsline, where we're joined by Mrs. Pratibha Mahanamahewa and Rusipala Tennakoon. Now then, Mr. Pratibha, what happened? They quietly, on the sly even, handed this man his passport, and he's traveling the world. He's on the run.
No, remember, he is not a Sri Lankan citizen.
That doesn't
He is a Singaporean citizen.
So?
The issue is this: even we can't arrest him. There are certain ways if you want to arrest Arjuna Mahendran.
Yeah.
There can be certain cases.
Yeah.
But the issue, how can we arrest a nationalist who is not belong to Sri Lanka? So that's why the extradition laws are there.
But if you can't, I'm not talking extradition. I'm talking about the fact that there was a travel ban on him.
Okay. The travel ban was released.
Slowly, he was given permission to go and come. And this is happening again. That the chap who was involved in that avant-garde matter, he was given permission, if you remember. He went to Africa, and he came back. Okay, he's here today. But what I'm trying to say is, there is a pattern of this premeditated
I agree.
intent.
I
here.
totally agree.
And today we are in a situation, like you say, that we can't bring him down because there's no extradition and so on and so forth.
I am telling, basically, former Director General of the Bribery and Corruption Commission also removed without any reason, and she stepped down. So what was the pressure amount into this commission? And the top people are safeguarding Arjun Mahendran. And also sometimes there can be backup with the judiciary, with due respect and not insulting, but there can be certain reasons. So what they have made slowly. And remember what Arjun Mahendran said in the Bond Commission, it is enough. I acted according to instruction given by Prime Minister. So there are certain evidence. Even he is fleeing away, there are responsible people. Why the present government even not acting against him? That is my main issue.
Would you support a move in which the Prime Minister's passport and Mahinda Rajapaksa's passport, Gota's passport, the former First Lady's passport, and all these people who are being investigated by Presifac, the Presidential Commission on Serious Allegations of Fraud and Corruption, those people who are involved, there was 34 files, Mr. Rispala. Don't you think that those people's passports should be impounded? Or do we never learn a lesson? Now we seem to have learned a lesson with Mahendran. What are the chances of him coming back voluntarily?
I don't think he may come back voluntarily. The dates were given, another 2 weeks were given. But if he failed to return to this country, at least my argument, ex parte case you can proceed.
Absolutely.
After that, you take a judgment, and there are ways to implement that. But still, this is under the carpet. Now they want to save the unity government, national government, and step by step, all these slogan has go down. This is a political game. Please remember, the people who want to keep in power, they come with certain issues. Now, 3 years past the national government. Do you need a national government still? The countries UK and USA, at the time they have come for a national government for a certain purpose. Now, what is the purpose we need? So that's why they want to keep their perks as well as ministerial purpose. They will come up with certain issues.
Now then, a listener from Norelia says, it's high time to take stern action against Mahendran, Aloysius, and all those culprits, these politicians who were involved in robbing the central bank. Do you think that will actually happen?
For us, I think the biggest action that should be taken has been taken on this bond scam, that is defeating of the UNP at the last elections. What is the factor, underlying factor behind such a colossal loss to the UNP? The bond scam. They knew who was responsible, who was trying to prevent them, safeguard them, suppress the issue. The people gave a judgment. That alone, forgetting all these other things, is sufficient for the people responsible to go out. That did not happen.
Now, you know, Mr. Principal, yesterday I was speaking to a young fellow who runs a small phone shop in one of the arcades near here. And we got talking, he said to me, well, what do I think of Ranil Wickremesinghe? I said, do you mean I've failed in our duty, is it? He said, well, he's Mr. Clean, isn't he? I said, okay, let's leave that there. And I then asked him, as the minister in charge of the subject of the central bank, which for the first time in the history of post-independent Sri Lanka was split, the finance ministry was split into three, and he had the central bank. I said he was the minister in charge when on the 8th of March, when we in this network put it out, there was a newspaper article before that, but after that this network took it right around the country because of coverage. I said, when we highlighted this problem, the Prime Minister, the man in charge of this subject, didn't do anything about it. He could have asked Mahendran, prove to me that your son-in-law is divested from these perpetual treasuries. Even at that stage, the Prime Minister, sadly for this country, he did not do that. Instead, he relied on the assurances of the governor of the central bank. And Mr. Rusipala, you will know this by heart now. You know exactly what the Presidential Commission of Inquiry said about that. They said that it would have been better if the Prime Minister had not relied on the assurances given by Mahendran and Samarasiri. Let's not forget him. He was the rogue deputy in this matter, right? Instead, he should have gone for independent advice. So I told this young man that it is a question of inaction. That's the problem. Is it inaction?
Definitely. Not only inaction. Earlier you said non-delivery. These are the basic issues. Now, you can remember, President of this country said one thing. UNP has done some mistake. Prime Minister has done some mistake appointing this Mahendran to the central bank governor. I repeatedly urge not to appoint him, but he is appointed. Now you can see who is the powerful, whether the executive president is powerful or prime minister is powerful. This is where the executive president has not shown his whatever he said in the good governance to the country. That's why Rusiri said the result was given. We can see the verdict of the people. That is basically correct. Still it is inaction. The new Minister of Justice, has she done anything to the country? What were the things? Only she want to change, amend and appoint a special high court to pursue with these matters. But other than that, nothing happened. Inaction and non-delivery, this is the basic loss for the government. And also, there are some foreign hands. Even immediately after the losing of the election, what happened? US ambassador as well as the Indian ambassador. Very recently, Chinese ambassador also visited, and they said they are the people who influence to run this country as it is, the unity government. So what is the people has appointed is not happening. That's why the best thing to dissolve the government and go for a fresh election, snap election with agreement of all and elect a government, then you can run with the stability. This is instability. See the stock market, what is happening. See the dollar. Drastically, Sri Lanka rupees drastically diminishing. All these things are there. Last 9 days, there is no government in Sri Lanka. People are not trusting. Any investor is not coming to this country. Why? Political instability. That's why the present governor of the central bank also very recently said, stabilize the government. But still, I can't see. They all depend with Supreme Court. They all depend with Honorable Attorney General to get some advice. But day by day, what is happening? Drastically going down. We have to take a decision immediately.
And how far away is that decision, Mr. Rusripala?
You see, it is not a very difficult decision that should have been taken. This is a decision of one person. If the Prime Minister decided to step down, there are many people who are qualified, eligible, and who can run the UNP or get the UNP to join hands with the other parties required to run the country.
But don't you think, this flurry of activity, like Mr. Pratibha pointed out, about the US ambassador, the Indian ambassador, these people, if we remember before as well, we said that there was a foreign hand in this. And these people are watching Sri Lanka go down that slippery path, right? And it's never going to come out. We are down instead of giving life to this gilded prospect that we had when we made this change. All these 47 people, all of you all joined in this activity together to bring good governance. And now it has just slipped through our fingers. President Rajapaksa won the war and he's let the reconciliation slip through his fingers. He wasn't committed to that. And today, as Mr. Sambandhan is saying, again he's trying to bring this blessed nonsense about racial disharmony and all that nonsense. The people of Sri Lanka don't want that, do they?
All those people whom you named, they have a stake in the things going in this country. China, India, states, they have. That is why they have shown in no uncertain terms that we are interested to see something that we want happening in this country. Naturally. I mean, you don't need any explanation or go into figures, statistics to show their stake.
I'd like to ask the Indian ambassador and the US ambassador, what would have happened to their chief executive if they had done anything remotely similar to what happened at our central bank? Why is our central bank different from their central bank? Is there any difference?
I think.
If Mr. Trump had been overseeing this nonsense, do you think he'll be in the White House today?
No.
So what's different?
Simple
then?
issue is this. They want to make this country as Angola. What happened to Angola after the war? Certain instability. So the West want this two to be in power. Then it is very easy for them to do their work in this country with one sentence I am telling. Believe me, and after 6 months you count my sentence and tell.
For us, the day is not far away for the people to take to streets and say, do this, do that, remove so and appoint so and so. I mean, this. Let us all pray that it should not happen in this country in the longer term interest of our future generations. Let sanity prevail. Let democracy take its shape and let people think not of their personal interest but of the broader interest of the country. And let them, now they are talking of restructuring of a party. What does it mean?
Oh, we've heard this story before.
Logically,
in 2000.
This happened long time back.
Logically, it is an acceptance that there is some need for a change. So the change.
You're being very economical with your words. You need to be much more clearer than that.
Yeah.
This man has been in charge of this party for 23 years, 40 years in Parliament.
Yeah.
And every time he loses a major election, he talks about restructuring. Don't these people have brains? Do they all continue to believe this?
For us, when the Speaker, the President and the Prime Minister had a discussion, we were thinking whether the Speaker is going to be made the Prime Minister. I mean, if that happened, there would have been a breath of fresh air in this country.
I don't think. Even the Honorable Speaker appointed as a Prime Minister, system won't change. System won't change.
No, this calamity. This calamity will die.
I don't think that, because he should give the leadership to young people.
Even more confusion. Well, that's the way it is. We've got no more time to discuss confusion. But let's have hope. Hope that the people of Sri Lanka will solve these problems within themselves, as it's happening right around the country in rural areas. Each person is helping each other in the spirit of togetherness. That's what's happening out there, because there's no help from Central. Central are busy doing this business that we've been talking about. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being on Newsline. Great pleasure. And that's the way it was on Newsline. On this wonderful day, Tuesday, the 20th of February 2018. Take care and God bless.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.